Hello, everybody. My name is Jana Niksa, and I am the Authentic Sales Coach. So, of course, in true sales coach fashion, we are going to talk about today everybody's favorite sales topic, handling objections. Okay, all joking aside, what I'd like to do today for you is provide you with some insight into a way of handling objections differently. They don't call me the Authentic Sales Coach for nothing. And then give you a little assessment to see, how are you currently handling objections? And maybe just so that you can rate yourself. And don't worry, you don't have to turn this in or anything. It's just for you to decide where maybe there's some areas and some tools that I can provide you with today that you can implement into your objection handling toolbox so that you can be able to navigate these things with more ease and more comfort and more sincerity. Because at the end of the day, that's really being the authentic sales coach. It's just super important that I help relay this to you in working with my clients, that it really is all about showing up for your clients in a way that really is that heart of service, that really is helping them, being a consult, being the expert, and guiding them through this process. So the reason that I chose objection handling is it is one of the most common things I get asked about. And then also it's one of the number one, if not the number one, reasons that people end up leaving money on the table, leaving their clients hanging, because they're just not able to hold that space and walk them through that objection, again, in a respectable, sincere way. Okay, so welcome to the Objection Handling Toolkit Assessment. All right, so I'm gonna run through my top 3 skills or tools that I would recommend that you start to implement if you're not already. And if you already are, awesome, but we can always get better, right? So make sure that you are continuing to hone in on these skills when you walk your clients through this objection handling, which I don't love that word, process. So that's what I want to start off with here first. Let's talk about this word handling. I'd like for you to see this whole process in a different light. I mentioned before, it's more coaching through objections. It's more guiding through this process, this sales process, and not handling. So a little bit about me, I was a top performing sales executive for over 2 decades. And my sort of claim to fame there is I never did it the way they told me to. I was never that pushy person. I was never aggressive. I was none of those things. And especially when it came to handling objections like we practice in the sales world, it's more of that pouncing on them. It's more that rebuttal. I've got your answer. It's very aggressive, right? And what I was always able to do is do it in a more respectful, more mindful, and more just heart-led way. And so that's really what I want to teach you today. And, the biggest thing is, instead of thinking it as handling, again, think of it as you're coaching them. This is where your coaching begins. And that is key, because you need to be able to have that expert, that authority, and hold that space so that you can help walk them through their fears, okay? So with that, let's get into the toolkit. Now, the energy that I want you to sort of tap into when you're starting to walk people through objections is that of a friend and an expert simultaneously, okay? And here's what I mean by that. So let's say you are a divorce counselor, okay? And one of your very best friends decides she wants to meet you for dinner, and she tells you that she's leaving her husband, okay? So as a friend, and as the expert, you're gonna stay impartial, you're gonna stay neutral, you're gonna remain very curious so that you can understand. Because as far as you knew, this friend had a great marriage everything was really, doing well considering and comparatively speaking. So that's that neutral curiosity you want to lead with so that you can get the full understanding from your friend, because you love her, you care about her, you care about both of them, right? Her husband as well. And you don't want her to make any crazy decisions. And you also don't want her to jump into anything that she's not ready for. So can you feel into that energy when you're walking somebody through objections? It's not about you, right? Just in that moment, if I were asking questions to my friend, it's not about me. It's not about what I want for her, right? It's all about her making sure she knows what she wants and she's not making any decisions in fear or not making decisions in fear. And you're just there to help guide her along, okay? So that's the first thing I want you to sort of tap into here. It's not a salesy thing. It's not a pushing, forcing thing. It is an I'm here of service. I am the expert. I'm going to hold space for you and ask you some questions so that I can fully understand what's going on in here and what's going on in here. Okay, so the very first thing I want you to do is rate yourself on this. When you're going through and coaching someone through objections, how unattached are you remaining to the outcome? Are you able to check your expectations and your ego at the door and just show up for them? Just like that friend analogy I was telling you about. Are you able to do that in that moment? Okay, so just 1 to 5. 1 being not at all, it's all about me, I just need the sale, money, 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 money. Or 5 being yes, like I am truly able to show up and be the person that they need me to be in that moment to make that big decision and check my expectations, my money stuff at the door so that I can just be there for them. So I'll just give you a second. And again, I'm not collecting these answers. Just be honest with yourself. Okay, so now, that is really something, the very first point here, and why I brought up this friend analogy in the first place. You've got to learn how to remain neutral, remain unattached, and just walk them through this process, okay? And I do a lot of work with my clients around this in different ways and practices to help you separate yourself from the conversation. But for now, just really know that that's one of the most important, if not the most important tool to have, because that's what most coaches don't do. They're pushing, they let fear come in, fear's running the equation now, and next thing you know, they've lost the sale because they pushed too hard, or they've lost the sale because somebody threw out an objection, and instead of thinking of an objection as just a place to explore fear, they've equated an objection to rejection. And so they do the opposite approach and go, okay, well, thank you so much. Great to talk with you. Please let me know if anything changes. And they bail, right? It's that fight or flight. And we don't want to be in either of those fear-based primal modes, because at that point, our emotions are running the show instead of our own center and our own integrity and everything calm, collected, and insecure in this conversation, right? So again, remaining curious, remaining neutral, very important. Will set you apart from the major majority of coaches out there. 2, you're holding space. Now I mentioned before, in my sales career, we practice objection handling all the time. And it was like, how quickly can I pounce on them with my rebuttal? You say this, I say that. You say this, I got that. Gotcha. It was sort of that gotcha energy, right? We don't want to do it that way, okay? Instead, we want to do something called holding space. So again, I'd like for you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being, oh my gosh, I don't listen at all. I just start hammering them, or I bail on the conversation. And then 5 being, no, I'm good. Like I can hold my own when things get uncomfortable and really, really just hold that space for somebody. Okay, so this is your toolkit number 2. And that is that space. Being able to deeply listen to what they're telling you, being able to fully internalize where they are, so that when you speak, when you finally speak, after you fully get the picture of where they are, and you can really hold that authoritative and consultative energy, and that they get that you understand, and that this isn't the first time you've heard this. So they're in a safe, they feel seen, they feel validated. Because remember, a customer doesn't buy when they understand you and what you have to offer. They buy when they feel understood. So it's very important to be able to hold that space when objections come up and things get a little uncomfortable, especially when it's money and, just those sorts of things, that you're able to hold that space, ask those questions, deeply listen to what they're saying, and fully hear them. It's going to go so much further than, well, what about this? What about this? You could do this, you could do this, right? Okay. And then the last one is, a lot of times, especially when it comes to the money objection, it's not about the whole money objection. And so what you want to do, similarly again to that friend that's trying to figure out, like, where did this come from? How is this happening? What is really going on? What is really going on here, right? That's where you want to put on that more investigator hat. And so you want to ask questions, because in the sales world, we call this smoke screens. So it's really easy for somebody to go, I can't afford it. But is that really what it is? It might be. It totally might be. And then in that case, I would defer you to your application process, which is a conversation for another day. If they're living paycheck to paycheck, they should not be on the phone with you, right? However, but let's say they are, and you're trying to figure out, is this the real objection? So putting on that investigator hat, before we do, again, rate yourself 1 to 5. How are you at seeing these objections and really fully understanding what's going on underneath the words? Are you a good investigator, which is a 5, or a 1, you're sort of maybe getting drunk at the party with them, right? And sort of hopping into their pool and like, oh, okay, yeah, times are tough and all of these things. Or are you doing a better job of fully understanding where they are? So I'll give you a second again. Okay, so now let's talk about how to really get to the heart of the problem. And so that can look something like this. Okay, I fully understand. Remember, you're going to hear them. I fully get it. Times it's tough. There's a lot of people that have a lot going on. I fully understand. However, money aside, is this the program in your heart of hearts that is right for you? Let them answer. Then ask them why. Okay? Because what you really want to do, you don't want to, if somebody says no, then you want to understand why, so that you can get better, or your program can get better, or maybe it's just not the right fit. But if they say yes, then that's permission then to say, okay, well, if this is what's right for you, then let's explore options and find something that fits, that feels right. And what a lot of people do is they just bail at that point without really having all the information, and realizing it's not really the money. A lot of times, 90% of the time, it's just fear, their beliefs, not believing in themselves, not believing in this process. And so if you can get more familiar with what's really going on, you can really walk them through those fears. And remember, this is where your coaching begins.